And then the newcomers as well, Holly Hill for Cambridge being a really exciting young British rower. And to pick out is Karen Davis, true world-class athlete. She's 6'3". She's the most decorated international rower ever to... All that training comes to this, a moment in time for women, for sport, for rowing, for equality. The Newton Investment Women's Boat Race.
They had a dream, and now it's about to be realised. A dream of a few for so many years is taking shape in what has been a man's world. Simon Harris, the umpire, waiting as the two crews by their stake boats. Their arms are down by their sides, the coxes, and we're underway. History is made on the Tideway as the women's boat race is underway in 2015. Cambridge with the Middlesex station on the right-hand side of your screen, Oxford on the left, stroked by Karen Davis, the most decorated rower in the race, not just for men, but also, not just for women, but also for women as well. A hugely successful athlete. How can she drive this crew forward? Cambridge know that they have to make a strong start. They had the advantage early on with this straight part of the course, leading away from Putney up this 4¼ mile course. There is Karen Davis, digging deep already, this strong surging start, trying to fly over the water with the wind, as we hear, strong and even choppy as we get round the course beyond Hammersmith Bridge. In front now of their supporters on the slipway, cheering them on. Cambridge have to make this first part of the race tell. They have the advantage for the first mile, really, up past Fulham Football Ground, just before they get towards Hammersmith Bridge. But Cambridge, it seems already, are a quarter of a length behind Oxford, who started strongly. They are overwhelming favourites. We saw this yesterday in the reserves race with Osiris absolutely romping clear of Blondie. Cambridge have to stay tight. Annie Vernon and Zoe de Toledo alongside. One a Cambridge blue, another an Oxford blue. For Cambridge at the moment, Annie Vernon, this is ominous so early on.
Yeah, it's not looking like a great start for the girls. I would say they're looking a lot tidier than Oxford, which is important in this kind of rough weather, but at the same time they're just being outpowered.
Look at that, half a length clear already. Cambridge do need to respond, they know this. Because for the moment, while they're so far apart, this is a highly impressive performance by Oxford, going for early domination, because as soon as they are more than a length clear, they can start to move over. They can see where Cambridge are, and they can then start to dominate the race. And thereafter, Cambridge could be struggling, and they will be chasing in the wake and left in the puddles of Oxford.
This is the dominating performance that we were expecting from Oxford, and you can see there Karen Davis, the Oxford stroke, really working hard to keep her crew ahead.
She has a unique style. You can see with the catch, she's quite high in the way that she brings that blade back. And she's a lot taller, considerably taller than the rest of the crew. And it's been left to the crew to match, to raise their standards, to come up to her level.
Absolutely, and you can see how hard she's working, but also how clean her rowing is, leading the rest of the girls behind her.
She's had her moments, said her coach, Christine Wilson, but the two of them know each other well because they did well in the 2003 World Championships when Karen and the USA crew, under the coaching of Christine Wilson, took that gold. Oxford then are well clear. Matt Vincent is on the river. What more can you tell us about those conditions and what chances that Cambridge can somehow strike back?
I would have said very limited that Cambridge can get back here. It's very calm.
Slightly difficult to hear what Matt was saying, but we can see with our own eyes, can't we, that Cambridge are really struggling to maintain their rhythm and the momentum in the face of such A surging, mighty start by Oxford University. They're coming up towards the Harrods Furniture Depository on the Surrey bank, the southern bank. And now there's a wonderful rhythm. You could almost sense a smile playing on the lips of Karin Davies at stroke. She knows where Oxford are going because she can see where Cambridge are going. They're well down.
Yes, and this was something that we were concerned about, having seen the reserve women's race yesterday, where Oxford won by a very imperious 40 seconds. And usually in the boat race, your reserve crew races just half an hour before you, and you may find out the results. If you do, it's right before you start the race. You don't have much time to dwell on it. These Cambridge girls will have known their reserve crew didn't do terribly well against Oxford yesterday in their race, and they will have had all night to dwell on that and to think about what's to come for them tomorrow. So very difficult for them just to get themselves off the start with a really positive mindset.
You saw on the graphic there, that line, that narrow blue line down the middle of the darker expanse of the river. That is the racing line, and that's what both crews were chasing for. But now that has to be the sole preserve of Cambridge behind Oxford. Oxford just forging clear now. And as a former Cambridge Blue, Annie Vernon, you must be wondering what your successors are going to manage, because this looks like a forlorn chase now in the sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, for a Cambridge supporter, it's not a good sight. But you know, let's look at the broader picture here. It is, I mean, this is a beautiful sight here. It's a gorgeous day. It's the championship course, and we're seeing history being made. And of course, we'd love to have seen a closer fight. But Cambridge at this point, all they'll be thinking is, we can still come back. We can still come back. These girls will not give up fighting until they cross the line.
Cambridge, you can see it up their stroke rating up to 32. They have those three returning blues in Caroline Reid in the 3-seat, Claire Watkins in the 4-seat, and Melissa Wilson just in front of her in 5. Indeed, Melissa Wilson and Holly Hill, who's in 6, making her blue debut. She only took up rowing 18 months ago, will be rowing for the GB under-23 squad next week, those trials. So this is just a warm-up for what's coming in what's going to be a very busy April. But at the moment, they're focused solely on what they can do. How can they somehow fight their way back and make this a contest? Unlike Oxford's wish to continue this procession royally underneath Hammersmith Bridge. And now, with the river turning 2 miles of the bend, which will undoubtedly favour the crew which was on the Surrey station, and now which can just make its way elegantly and in supreme style towards the finish in Mortlake.
You could hear the Cambridge Cox, Rosemary there, trying to urge her crew on, and it's a very difficult thing to be behind in a race, because these girls, as you say, are going to want to do the best they possibly can, and when you're down like that, you can't do nothing, you've got to do something, so you need to make sure you really keep pushing on. And you could hear her just urging her crew to stay on their rhythm, on their rowing, and just get as best they can with Oxford there ahead of them.
This is Caroline Reid's 4th boat race. She won the first in 2012. She lost in 13 and 14. And unless she has something very special up her sleeve, it's going to be another defeat. But for Oxford, with their 4 returning blues, Maxi Shesky in the bow seat, president last year, Anastasia Chitty, current president. Lauren Kedar, also of the Great Britain rowing team, in the 4th seat, and then Nadine Gradle-Eberg. She's there in the 7th seat, just behind Karin Davies, this giant at stroke, but such a strong, stern pair, and they are driving this crew forward. This race currently slower than yesterday's reserve cruise race. That's because the conditions are very different. Yes, we've got sunshine, but there is nowhere near the wind, and this is where it becomes increasingly difficult. The wind direction changes. Very soon there'll be less shelter as they come up towards the bandstand on the Middlesex station, and the winds will sweep across. But that at the moment is not slowing, not delaying, barely ruffling Oxford's confidence as they make their way down the River Thames. This is Oxford in overdrive, and Cambridge are left purely to paddle in their puddles, however much they would like to make an impact.
But let's really look at, I mean, Karen Davis has got all the attention here, but let's remember there's 4 GB junior internationals in the Oxford boat. There's 1 GB under-23 international in the Cambridge boat, and actually one of the girls in the Oxford boat, one of the girls in the Cambridge boat last summer winning a silver medal for Great Britain together at the under-23 World Championships. What you're seeing here is the Olympians of the future. Let's not forget that. Yes, it's a race. Yes, they're winning for their university, but it could be in 10 years' time. They're sitting here with the commentary talking about how it was in their day, but let's not forget, these are the Olympians of the future.
There is an interesting argument, and you touched on it in the build-up when you were talking to Claire about the impact of Karen Davis there stroking the Oxford crew. Is this a contest between boats and crews of international rowers, or should it be more a contest, as it was first perceived, as a contest between undergraduate rowers? Because in a sense there is quite a gap there, and Cambridge, I know from a new book they just brought out in terms of the women's rowing at Cambridge, what is the way forward? Is this going to be an open competition, or is it going to be a more closed undergraduate competition?
Well, the model of the men's race tells us it will remain a mixed event of undergraduates, postgraduates, because remember, British universities are very international, and particularly amateur rowers, it's an amateur sport, they'll want to come here and study at the same time as they can develop their rowing. But, you know, let's remember that, again, Karen Davis, if you talk to her, she won't say, I'm a rower, I'm here to do the boat race. She will say, I'm a lawyer, I'm here to do an MBA. The boat race is part of the package. It's one of the reasons it's so special.
Yeah, Karen is a serious woman in terms of her law career. She's been clerking for a judge in Hawaii, actually, before she came out here. And this was a serious change of pace for her, rather than that professional career, actually surfing in the morning and then a professional career. She's here and she wants to show that she can do the MBA, achieve high academic results, and obviously the draw of the women's boat race bringing her here too.
She did say she had the chance to go to Cambridge, and there was offers on the table from both universities, but having already been just for a few months at Oxford, she felt a loyalty there and came and returned, and particularly there was that extra draw because she had the chance to work again with Christine Wilson. Though, as she did say, they've had their moments, but this is a woman who leads by example, and she's lifted this crew just as her coach, Canadian Christine Wilson, has challenged their crew all the time. What is good? What is good? And all the time the crew have had to respond, and they have found a level which clearly at the moment is overwhelming Cambridge, who have gone through so much hard work, just as both crews do. But Cambridge in particular have to catch early morning trains. They catch a train from Cambridge to Ely, which is where they do their work. They then get back on the 8:26 to get back into Cambridge for 8:43, and I know this because I did it with them in order to be ready for lectures at 9 o'clock, and so they then continue their working day, and then they go from their academic studies to rowing, and so the day and the week goes on. This amount of work and this amount of effort now will feel like it's come to nothing in a sense, because there are 2 boats and 1 winner, and second is nowhere.
I don't think you ever feel like your time, even in a losing boat, as I know, was wasted. These women will have had an exceptionally interesting year, and especially in such a historic year, I'm sure they won't regret their decisions to row at all.
I mean, I lost my own boat race, and I would describe it as probably the year that I fell in love with the sport. That was the year I learned to love rowing, and it was an unsuccessful boat race. So, you know, and these girls will be hurting tonight if this result continues, but of course it's a rough day, anything can still happen. But, you know, they will look back on this year with a lot of pride. They were one of the first women's boat race, and that's a phenomenal thing to say.
Coming up now to 2.5 miles on this historic day for the women's boat race, moving from Henley, just a course of 2,000 metres, this to the full 6,800 metres, 4.25 miles, which the men will do in just under an hour's time, coming up towards Chiswick Steps on the Surrey station, with the Duke's Meadows on the north of the river, the Middlesex station, up towards Barnes Bridge, the final bend, which if there'd been 2 crews side by side, would have favoured the crew on the Middlesex station. You can see here as the course turns. But for Cambridge, it's a chase. For Oxford, it's a parade, an exhibition at the moment, with the flotilla following behind.
This is such a good shot here. I mean, really, this just brings shivers to your spine to think that the women are here racing alongside the men. And yes, of course, we would have loved a closer race, but I mean, look at this view. You've got Olympic champions racing the first ever Oxbridge boat race, and you can't really put a price on that view.
I wonder what sort of impact this has on the men, who all say that they're doing other things, they're not really concentrating on this, and you can quite understand that. Every athlete has to concentrate on their own race. But this result will surely, Bush Telegraph, will make its way back to where the crews are preparing.
Well, I know Isis Goldie are already on the water. They're going to be ready to race in the next 10 minutes or so. I doubt the men will have a huge amount of concern about the result in terms of their own performance. They are obviously different clubs, but they'll want to know how the women are doing. And the other interesting thing is this will give them an opportunity to see what the river holds for them. Usually you don't have a full televised race going ahead of you, showing you the conditions down the course. So I'm sure the men will be benefiting from the chance to see how the river is going to be playing in their own race.
At the moment, Oxford dominating on the Thalweg, as they call it, which is the fastest part of the water, the tube of water below the surface, which is directly above the fastest water. The wind and the tide working in opposition.
I don't know if you can hear it at home, but I've got the Oxford Cox in my ear, and I've just heard her say, let's do this for everyone who made this happen. Let's make history here today. So they know exactly what they're doing here today. They know that they have this race in the bag. There's nothing really that can go wrong for these Oxford women now. But they want to show how important this race is for them and for those, as they say, who made it happen.
2%. Get ready.
That's the voice of Jennifer Eyre, the Oxford coach, exhorting her eight through the middle section of Barnes Bridge. 1927, the first women's boat race held at Oxford. The second was actually on the Tideway in 1929, from Kew to Chiswick, over just half a mile. The third then in Reading, the fourth then on the Cam, and the fifth in 1935 on the Tideway once more, the same Kew Chiswick course. But then it was about style, technique, and a speed. This in 2015 is all about endurance, it's power. And Oxford have shown plenty of that. And they will know from the work they've been doing on the Tideway in the weeks in the build-up to this great occasion, they will know that they're almost there. The cheers will carry them over the water. They have Cambridge where they want them, well behind. And now they are heading to where they want to be. Across that line as the winners and a place in history. See how difficult it is with the waves and the weather and the wind. Yes, it's sunny, but that surface of the water is highly difficult. It's making it very difficult to see the boat moving from side to side. This is the challenge of the Thames. This is no basin or swimming pool in a World Championship or Olympic course.
Yeah, if you want safe, predictable rowing, you don't row the boat race. The old Father Thames can do anything, and on boat race day, you just don't know what you're going to get. And I think you can see here that the girls, you know, it's a robot, it's happening, it's so smooth. But within that, from what we heard from the Oxford Cox, it's so much passion. They've done the training, they've got the system, now they're just unleashing that passion and emotion.
The Tideway is undoubtedly the third competitor in the boat race. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a very changeable beast, and that's what makes the race so exciting to watch, but also makes the race so exciting to be a part of. And I've just noticed in these shots here that the Oxford women have named their boat Catalyst, which is an interesting point. You know, it's obviously what they think this race is, and I'm sure Annie can tell you more about Project Ely, who the women's boat, the Cambridge women's boat, have named after.
Yeah, Project Ely is the project to build a brand new rowing facility in Cambridge. At the moment, the girls are training out of a lean-to, which doesn't even have a toilet on site. You know, it's kind of third world facilities, and instead they're building this amazing new facility for a future generation of Cambridge rowers and hopefully a future generation of Olympians.
Project Ely will take shape with money. Donations are coming in. They already have the slipway. They know where they want to build this at Ely. But for now, it's all about the finish in 2015. That's for the future. These are the closing stages of a painful race for Cambridge, but an exhilarating row for Christine Wilson's crew. This is the third race of her 5-year programme. And here come her crew. 8 women, coxed by Jennifer Eyre. A chess champion who hasn't had to draw necessarily on her tactical nous, because the power of Karen Davies and the 7 women behind her have ensured that they are clear of Cambridge University, and the Dark Blues are heading towards victory, an overwhelming victory on the Tideway. The 70th women's boat race, for the first time on the same course and the same day as the men. The finishing line, the final strokes. Victory is almost there. Yes, Oxford, says Jennifer Eyre. Confirmation that Oxford University Women's Boat Club have won this historic race on the Tideway in 2015. The hours, the days, the weeks, the months have all paid off. They look round, and there come the light blues of Cambridge crossing the line. And almost no words are needed now.
Yeah, absolute desolation there from Cambridge. You know, they would have known for most of that race that the pain they were feeling in their legs was not going to result in victory for them, whereas the Oxford girls, it's always easier to push hard and keep dealing with the pain when you're the boat in front.
Traditional round of 3 cheers from both boats. You can show how much it even took out of winners like Karen Davies, someone who's been to 3 Olympic Games, 2 Olympic gold medals, a silver medal, 4 World Championship golds. This was another challenge. She embraced it, and she has risen to it, and she has conquered it. An exhibition class by a quality performer, not forgetting or underestimating the rest of that crew, because this is a team sport where no one person can carry a boat or a crew. You need 8 highly qualified, highly talented athletes to make this boat go fast, and that's exactly what Oxford have done. So too Cambridge, but not as effectively or as fast. It wasn't enjoyable early on, but now the relief and celebration. They are, and there's Maddie Babcock in the seat number 5. Second year at Oxford, but first year in the boat race. A winner. And a telling moment. I think we shall see it with Jennifer Eyre if we stay with this long enough. She looks round and can probably in her own mind can barely see her. There, somewhere in the distance, with the Cambridge crew. And this is some moment. You've done your work on the river, and now to see your family, to see your friends, to see your supporters waiting at Mortlake.
And this is the reserve women now that are coming down from Oxford, who are helping their ladies out of the boat. And the nice thing about having the reserve race the day before, actually, was that it meant that the blue boat were there to help their reserve crew out of the water, which usually wouldn't happen in the men's race. And that was quite a touching moment to see yesterday, certainly. And again, same here, but nice to be able to reciprocate and help your teammates out, because they will feel like the victory is for the whole squad, not just the 9 ladies who are in the boat.
Anastasia Chitty, president. Max Leszewski, past president. An embrace in the bow of the boat. You almost wonder whether Karen Davies can't quite take in what she's achieved.
We're so glad to have you guys.
They said when she came to the university 2 years ago, they were all daunted by her. Daunted by her ability, daunted by her reputation. Well, today they've added to her reputation, and indeed the reputation of the event and their boat club. Still out on the river. What can you say? What do you say? And what would they want you to say?
At this point, they're not going to be feeling anything other than A, absolutely exhausted, and B, completely and utterly devastated, and probably feeling like the last 6 months was a lot of training for no purpose. But over time, you know, time is a healer, and they will be able to take the positives out of this. And like I say, the 5 seat in the Cambridge crew, you'll see in a sec, Melissa Wilson, she is a star of the future, and we will be hearing more from her.
Holly Hill, we shall see her as well in the 6th seat, watching the Olympics, inspired by watching Helen Glover on the One Show, and from then on decided to get into rowing. She's on the GB Start programme. Here she is competing in this tough endurance test. It hasn't worked today, but what experience will she learn, and what good use will she put to that? But today, the women's boat race belongs to Oxford. The Oxford president, Anastasia Chitty, is talking now to Jason Mohammed.
The contrast in emotions so extreme, from the celebration of Oxford to the dejection of Cambridge. Officially, Oxford finishing 19 seconds ahead. That equates to about 6.5 lengths. We don't have an official time, but it was roughly 19 minutes 45. It most certainly was well under the 20-minute barrier. Anna Watkins alongside me. How impressed were you with Oxford's performance there?
That was really a world-class performance. I mean, it's stroked by one of the as we've discussed many times, one of the best sweep rowers in the world, and it absolutely showed. You know, they set a great strong rhythm off the start. They were together, the boat was beautifully balanced, and it showed. You know, it showed in their speed.
And for Cambridge, that had to start hurting a long way from home.
It did. I mean, Cambridge, you know, they only had one option really, which was a death or glory approach to this race. You know, they absolutely threw everything at it at the start, and you could see as we got down the course, you know, a minute or two in, they were going to pay for that, and that was their only option to play it that way. But it was going to tell in the later stages of the race.
Meanwhile, the stroke of the Oxford boat, Karen Davies, was smiling after 2 or 3 minutes. She knew that they were going to win. Let's hear from her now with Jason. And Oxford will continue to celebrate, and well, they deserve it. They were utterly supreme from start to finish. Anna Watkins, Andy Triggs-Hodge, Tom James alongside me. Andy, what do Cambridge need to do to come back next year and be competitive?
They've got to keep their eye on the ball. The big thing they were lacking today was experience in the crew. They've got to get the girls to the universities. They've got to make sure that the message is out there that this is a high-level event. You've got to get that recruitment going, and when they can compete on an even keel with Oxford, then they've got the talent and the coaches, they've got the support, they've got the buildings, everything is there. You know, they've just got to make sure that everyone out there knows that Cambridge is one of the best universities to come and row at. Make it happen.
We're going to get a bit of reaction now from Cambridge and their president, Caroline Reid. We'll be back there for the presentation for the first ever women's boat race to take place from Putney to Mortlake. But Tom, we've seen one-sided races like that in the men's race many times.
Yeah, certainly in the past. I mean, this is the boat race. It's difficult conditions. It's a big unknown. You don't know the opposition, and when you go out to compete, sometimes it's a bit of surprise what the result is. But there are a lot of good things in the Cambridge camp. Rob Baker's done a fantastic thing with the crew this year and how he's built it up. This is their first experience of it. They've got something under the belt. They've got something they can work with now. And next year is about building on that, building on what that system he's created already. And once they've got those athletes, as Andy has talked about, we'll start seeing the results.
OK, let's take it from the start, because Anna, straight away, Oxford had the advantage. They started well. Cambridge looked slightly off a straight line there.
Yes, I think they were pointing a little bit out of the stream, and then we could see that they got a little bit wide, and Oxford would have had an advantage with the faster water there after the beginning. And you can see already here, Oxford are a few seats up. I was impressed with Cambridge's aggression off the start. They absolutely had to make that choice to do that, and they held on to Oxford. But it would have been great if they could have just kept up with them well enough to push them out wide through that first bend.
And at that point, they're then in the wash, aren't they? And they're actually rowing over the kind of holes left in the river from the oars of Oxford.
That's right, yeah. Those puddles made by the oars really upset the balance of the boat. It makes the boat tricky to steer. And you can see here in this shot, Cambridge rocking because the wash is tipping them. And that will affect the speed of the boat as well. So everything is exacerbated because they're behind now.
And what is happening in your head and indeed in your body at this stage?
Well, for Oxford, they've got a lot of adrenaline. They know they're winning, they're feeling positive. What they're doing is working, and that keeps their heads up and keeps them breathing well and reinforces what they're doing. For Cambridge, you know, it's all about pride, digging deep and you know, accrediting themselves for the season's training they've done, for all the hard work they've done. They know they're limiting their losses at this point, and that takes an awful lot of guts, and I'm very, very proud of them for what they've done.
Oxford, they go into the history books as the winners of the new women's boat race. Let's head over there to the presentation with Jason.
Yes, Claire, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, history has been made this afternoon. It is time now for us to welcome the two crews from the Newton Investment Management Women's Boat Race 2015. First, would you please show your appreciation this afternoon for the runners-up? Disappointment for Cambridge and their president, Caroline Reid, in her 4th boat race. Cambridge University, ladies and gentlemen. The presentation party this afternoon, Helena Morrissey, the Chief Executive Officer of sponsors Newton Investment Management, Robert Gillespie, Chairman of the Boat Race Company Limited, and a man who needs no introduction, Sir Steve Redgrave. Ladies and gentlemen, Cambridge. And would you please welcome the winners of the Women's Boat Race 2015, Oxford. Cox Jennifer Eyre, on stroke Corin Davis, at 7 Maddie Badcock, 6 Emily Reynolds, 5 Nadine Gredelberg, 4 Laureen Kedar, 3 Shelley Pearson, 2 the President Anastasia Chitty, and Maxi Shesh. What a story from Corin Davis, the stroke making her boat race debut this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A 4-time world champion and US Olympic champion in 2008 and at London 2012, and silver in 2004 in Athens in the women's 8. Huge congratulations then go to Oxford, getting their medals this afternoon from Helena Morrissey of the sponsors Newton Investment Management. Handshakes from Robert Gillespie, and very shortly Sir Steve Redgrave will be handing over the trophy, and cue remarkable celebrations, and also, no doubt, a few glasses of champagne this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the 2015 women's boat race, creating history today. Sir Steve Redgrave handing the trophy to Anastasia Chitty.